Wow. Hi everyone. I'm too small to hide behind. Even I'm not here, I'm still small. So that's what I hate about North Korea. Oh, yeah, I always said if I was born in America, I could be a mother, but didn't eat enough food. So I'm just like, um, I just want to thank for John and Tim and Maggie for having me here and for everyone to come here to hear my speech. So this is my third time to Australia, Sydney. I came here almost 2 years ago to get on the TV show SBS. And that time I just found my own sister who I lost for 7 years. And I told her that I'm going to Australia, and she didn't know what that was. And I didn't know what that was either. So I was saying, I think there's something called Australia somewhere in the world, and I'm going there. And my mom was saying, really? And yesterday, 2 days ago, I flew from New York, and this time I knew where I was coming. So I guess I learned a lot about the world during that 2 years period of time. I'm 22 years old, and like average people, I'm going to college in New York right now and studying financial economics. I'm sure a lot of you know what that is. A lot of people think after the escape that was it, that was the end of the story. But that was not it. That was actually the beginning for me. Like knowing what Africa was, knowing what Australia was, that was very new to me. And how am I gonna even compete with the people who knew all these things? So I don't know how many of you heard my speech before. Could you raise your hands up? A few. Yeah, so I was born in northern part of North Korea, and my father was party member, and I had one older sister. There was nothing unique about my life. I was just middle class in the northern part, and I was just average kid, go to school like you did. But obviously the things that I learned in school was very different. Like I didn't learn about Africa or Australia. Instead, I learned about American bastards, you know, Western evils, and our dear leader who's defending us from American bastards again. So my world was pretty small. I only knew America, Japan, Japanese imperialist, to be clear, and then South Korea and maybe China and North Korea. That was my world. I never seen a photo of like satellites or the universe. Of course, never heard about what Big Bang was. And just I knew the dear leader who was a god who, you know, made us, who made our country the best country in the world. And that was schooling. Like I always say that my math problem was like, you know, there are 4 American bastards and you kill 2 of them. Then how many American bastards did you kill? And I say 2 American bastards. And of course I didn't know what internet was. I never heard about it. And I didn't have 24 hours electricity either. So I could never imagine I would have electricity during the day like this. And I had one channel on TV, and that was telling us about how great our dear leader and the party was. And nobody's free in that country, so they are not allowed to go to next town. And they could not have this kind of hair. The guard was telling me what kind of hairstyle you can have, what things you can wear, what things you can sing, what things you can listen to. So every single thing is controlled by the regime. And the most difficult thing for me when I became free person was the language difference. So in North Korea, we don't have a word like liberty, freedom, or human rights. So here you go, if you don't know the word, you don't know the concept. And a lot of people asking me, did you know what gay was? And like, no. So we don't have a dictionary where defines human rights, defines gay, or defines anything like that. So just I simply didn't know that human had rights. And that's North Korea. And a lot of words are like not there. And of course, the word love. Right here, almost like every movies, every love songs that talks about love in our country now. But I didn't know love something was you tell your lover, or love something your parents tell your children. Only love I knew, and only love I understood was love for the regime. I never knew I could tell my mom I love you. And I never saw my father telling my mother I love you. So those things is not allowed, and people even not knowing you should have those feelings. That was my life without knowing my country was the most oppressed country in the world, and without knowing I was living in a crazy hermit kingdom. And my father got arrested for his illegal black market trading. So here we go. North Korea cannot have markets, right? But after Soviet Union collapsed, they were stopped like helping North Korea, and North Korean people were dying for the starvation, literally. And the people had to survive in their own ways. And that's how they created the black market. And my father was engaged in the black market, and he got arrested for it, and he got sentenced. And we say North Korea, nobody's equal. We have a caste system. And big, broadly, 3 big caste system, and it narrowly defined like 50 of them. So my status in the middle, and went to just the bottom. And there's no way I could imagine, living a good life. But everybody's life pretty bad. So even like when I'm saying having a good life means you don't die for the starvation. So we have a different standard here. So that was, and then my father's is, imprisonment, and my life became really hard. My mom was also interrogated, and I was 80 years old, and I had an 11 years old sister, and we couldn't go to couldn't go to school anymore. So we went to mountains, eating dragonflies, grasshoppers, anything you can get from the nature. And that's how we literally survived. But there was some good part. As I mentioned, there was a black market in North Korea, right? So before, outside information couldn't get inside the country. But now, people through smuggling, they get the information from China. And that's how I saw movie Titanic for the first time. So again, of course, DiCaprio was amazing, that movie. But that was not my first reaction to that movie. When I saw that movie for the first time, I just couldn't believe what was happening in the movie. Why somebody made a movie out of such a shameful story? I never heard about Shakespeare. I never heard about anybody would talk about love in public. So every movie was like propaganda. Suddenly you see something. So for you suddenly see a movie about propaganda for your dear leader in the movie theater. You'll be freaking out, right? What is this? And that was my reaction. What's happening here? And then I saw that movie. But here I go. We don't have 24 hours electricity. So in order to finish a movie, it takes a month. Because electric comes 20 minutes, or maybe next time 1 hour, and it was a long movie, so it took a lot of time for me to finish the movie. And after I finished that movie, I felt something, that I felt humanity in that movie. That man dies for love. But I still didn't know what freedom was that time. I didn't even know there would be a world like this today. People can talk about freedom of thoughts, freedom of expression. This world would exist. And that was early 2000. And my life became really harder in 2007. There's no way we could survive anymore. There was not enough frozen potato. And I say Even now I can say that if there was enough frozen potato, I would never escape. But there wasn't. So my sister, at the age of 16, she left with her friends. And I was suddenly hospitalized, and I went to hospital and they say you have appendix. And they just removed anyway. But it was not appendix without any painkiller. So that was it. I had a surgery, like I was like awake while they were cutting my stomach. And then 7 days later, I was in the hospital. I was going to the bathroom, right? And in North Korea, like you have one needle and you like put inside, inject everyone's. And that's how poor you are. And we have like a beer bottles, and that's how we keep the things, and that's how you injecting people. So just dead bodies just piled up next to it. And I was going to the bathroom and I saw the like dead bodies piling up and rats coming out of people. And that was the last thing I saw in North Korea. And I was asking my mom, like, why don't they even like take that away? And they say they don't have a gas to take it away. That's how countries messed up. And that's human lives are how that's treated in North Korea. And I didn't even feel like compassion there because that was my life, seeing dead bodies on the streets. And as soon as I got off the hospital with that stomach, and I found a person who sent my sister to China, and that person told me, you can go to China. And I was 13 years old, and that was 2007. So I held my mom's hand, and I said, we need to go to China. If we don't go right now, we are gonna die here from the starvation. And my mom said, no, how we can leave your father behind? And I said, no, you must go. And from that moment, I became an adult. I never went back being a child again. So at the age of 13, that broker, they helped us to cross the frozen river to China. And we climbed several mountains and we crossed the frozen river. And once we arrived in China, I was so thankful because I didn't get shot. Because North Korean soldiers in the border, if anybody crossed, they just shoot them. It's not like stand and put your hands up. Nothing is like that. They just shoot them. And then I was thankful, but first thing that I saw was my mother being raped in front of my eyes. And that was China for us. So if North Korean defectors escaped to China after that, Chinese government, they send them back to North Korea. And the Chinese people know that, and some bad people trying to take advantage of our vulnerability. So they sell these people, sell North Korean refugees, basically human trafficking again. So once these defectors escape to there, and girls like me, and girls like your daughters or your age are being sold, and my mom's price was $65. And sometimes I wonder in New York, like one dinner costs more than $65. And that's somebody's life right now. And my price was over $200 because I was young. And we became slave again. We sold separately, and she sold to a farmer. So we all know that China had a one-child policy, right? And in the media, we hear a lot about victims, the ISIS rapists, all those things in the media. So recently, China ended one-child policy, and the biggest victim of that child policy is North Korean defectors. So in the rural areas, there are not enough women. So in these rural areas, Chinese men, they couldn't find wives. And that's why our North Korean defector women being sold to them. And the media were not talking about it. Even though I'm alive today, even though my mother is still alive, but this world somehow just forgotten these people. And then so I was being sold, and the man who bought me, told me that if I become his mistress, he would buy my mother and bring my father to me in China. And I was going to kill myself. And I thought, wow, if I sacrifice myself, I can see my family again. And that's how I became his mistress. And my father came to China, and my mom walked back again. But my father got the colon cancer from the prison, and he died just right before Beijing Olympic. I don't know, I know you all remember might be the Beijing Olympic was a big time, but it was not big time for us. My father died in the morning, and there was nobody I could call say like, my father died. And there was nobody I could even say that human being died right now. I had to wait until middle of the night and had to bury his ashes. And like that, my father was buried in China. And that's after a year passed in China. And I thought, I just didn't know what human dignity was. But I knew that I didn't deserve it. And I didn't want to live like that. And somehow we met a Russian defector woman. And she told me that you can go to South Korea and you can be free. And that's the first time I heard the word free. So I asked her, what do you mean I will be free? And that person told me, means you can wear jeans and you can watch movies and nobody gonna arrest you for that. And I thought, wow, that's fascinating. So I'm gonna risk my life right now for that. That was it. I didn't really dream of like being free or like that. I was just hungry, so I escaped to China. And again from China, I just wanted to wear jeans. And my price that I had to pay for was crossing freezing desert in Mongolia in 2009. And the temperature was like minus 40 degrees. If you survive, good luck, good for you. But if you don't, nobody cares. So in 2009, in February, with my mother and 5 people in our group, we had one compass with us. And we followed the north and west, that side. And we walked and walked, and we couldn't use the compass anymore. Because if you turn the lights, the soldier's gonna find you. And what I saw was the sky, and there was a very northern bright star was there. And I told my mom, let's follow that star. And we followed it, and we caught by Mongolian soldiers. And after 3 months in this prison, they call like some refugee prison camp like that in Mongolia. And I was sent to South Korea finally. And that was spring in 2009. So I call that was my second birthday because that was the first time I became a free person. But that was not the story. I arrived there, and the biggest challenge for me at that moment was figuring out the bathroom. I saw the bathroom at the airport, I was like, what do I do? Do I wash my hands? Or what do I do possibly here? It was so clean. And I saw the toilet paper, and it was like flower prints on it. I smelled it. I thought, why would you use this for that purpose? So I stored a bit. And that was my first day. That was brutal. And later, I learned about, Americano coffee, right? And I learned about, internet, Facebook. I was just came to different universe. I never seen like a magazine, and like people say, have you ever seen magazine? Like perhaps Playboy? So like what? So that's like in North Korea we don't have magazine. We don't have that many newspapers. We just only have one TV, and that was my life in South Korea. I had to learn how many countries in the world, and I had to learn Americans are not bastards. And they are really nice people. and then in 2011, I encountered a book called Animal Farm. You may all know that book, right? But that was not my expectation. So when I arrived in South Korea, I faced the discrimination. It was not like you guys welcoming me like this. People were telling me like, you don't understand capitalism. You are from like North Korea. Are you a spy? Why you are here? And like I was really stupid, right? At the age of 17, you don't even know what Africa is. So nobody my age gonna treat me like a person. And I took a GED, and I had a goal like reading 100 books a year. And I was reading and reading and reading to survive again. And that's how I encountered the Animal Farm. I thought it was about animals, really. And it was a theme book too, so I was like, okay, I can do this. And I read it again and again. I think I read it 5 times. I cried because I could see my grandma in that book. I could see my mother. I could see myself in the young pigs. And that just explained everything to me. And then later, I was adjusting to South Korea. And one day, I turned on TV. I didn't know what was going on because people were crying, celebrities were crying. So I thought like, okay, it must be a big deal. Why everybody's crying and like that? And turns out they are talking about animals' rights. And like, what? Animal has rights in this country? I didn't even know I had rights. Seriously? Like, what the heck is going on here? I really, and then for the first time I heard like people eating vegetarians, I had to eat anything possibly to survive. But there are people like eating vegetables. I love all of them now. But in the beginning was like, I was laughing, it was hilarious to me. But I was crying at the same time, like, how come world can be like this messed up? Like, people, like in this 21st century, being sold for $65. But some world, we care about animals' rights, and that's a great thing. But you don't even know 25 million's rights being denied. And I thought, like, why this world is not doing anything about North Korea? And I decided to speak up. And I spoke up. But I realized why there are not many people who could speak up, because Kim Jong-un came after me. And Kim Jong-un came after me, and he used all my relatives back in North Korea and denounced me as a propaganda I'm the propaganda machine of the West. And I could see how hard this journey can be. And I was also very sad when I would see the media. Kim Jong-un is a joke. His hairstyle is funny, I see that. And he's a fat dictator. Definitely he's fat. Because in North Korea, you won't believe this. He's the most attractive guy ever. In North Korea, you have a fat belly and the board is the most attractive thing. Because not many people has that. And if you are being fat, oh my God, you have a lot of ladies. So, and I had to learn, in the West, it's not the most desired guy style. So that's this is the world that we are living in. What a contradiction, right? We care about humanity, and I hear about literature, I hear about philosophy, and we talk about how great we are, how sophisticated we are. But are we really? I don't know. I think through my journey, of course I learned how to survive in North Korea. And I learned a lot of survivor skills. But I think the one lesson I learned the most was what it means to be a human being. I don't know what it means to be a human being. Is that means that you are thinking about all those great ideas, or just having something to eat, or maybe loving your family? I think that's a question that we all should ask. And if we can really, a lot of people today, I came here and they were asking me, so what do you think about tourism to North Korea, right? I know some of you will ask that question later. And I don't know, is that fascinating? Is that interesting? It can be you, and it can be somebody you know. And I think that's why, just, yeah, thank you for your time to hear what I have to say. And I hope this world someday we know something is going on in that country, and hope we care about it. And I'm open to the public, to the questions, and thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you for your words.
Thank you.
You talked about how people didn't have the words for things like freedom and love and all these things. They couldn't express the idea. Do you think the average North Korean has some sense that there's something not right, even though they can't express it, or is it just so all-consuming that people just don't even know that there's something wrong?
Thank you. So I told you when I came here 2 years ago, and I was on the TV show, and somebody asked me a similar question. I told them, like, I thought Kim Jong-il could read my mind, and they were all shocked, and I was shocked by their reaction. Like, is that surprising? So, I mean, being in North Korea feels like I saw the movie Truman Show. It feels like that. Nobody telling you the truth. It's like you have no idea. Nobody telling you the truth. And I don't even know I told myself the truth. And I wrote a book, it was a lot about me, I'm telling myself a story. And so when I was like a little, the first thing that my mom told me was that don't even whisper because the birds and mice can hear you. And in a situation you cannot even think you can whisper, how do you think even you can think? So personally, I believe that our dear leader, that fat guy, had the power to read my mind. And if I think of a bad thing about him, he can just punish me. So when it comes to North Korea, it's a religion. It's that they believe there's God can do anything, and that you just have a unconditional love for your dear leader, right? So that's it. I don't know. There's no way we can have a public survey about like how do you believe, or do you solo believe, or you don't believe, And it's like, yeah. So that's impossible to know really how much they believe or not. If that answers your question, thank you.
Hi. Could I kind of dovetailing off of that? Could you talk the method by which you got Titanic? I mean, there was some sort of trading system of people thinking they were doing something incorrect, I imagine, or trading of American movies or something. What is that world like? How did you get a copy of Titanic or other movies that people were watching?
Yeah, so the border areas, China is there, so people, they get it from China, and they trade with the goods that they have in North Korea, and they sell them in the black market. But it's very dangerous. Like you hear that in North Korea, people get executed for watching a movie, right? So I got it from our uncle's house, from my mom. My mom told me that, and so like you just only watch the close people, and a lot of times you can get caught by that. So it's very extremely dangerous. But again, like, watching those movies doesn't change much. So that's a thing I'm still thinking about. So I watched like 007. And when I watched that movie, I really thought like everybody in America climbing tall buildings and killing each other, shooting each other, because I didn't have a concept of like action movie or romance movie. And of course, I watched like a show, WWE Pro Wrestling. I really thought like men in the West look like that. And when I went to the United States, like, oh no, that was not what I expected of American men. So like, there's no way you can verify something. Like you just have no idea. So, and some people believe it's just a movie. So they believe, oh, of course that's a movie, so it's all fake. They are not wealthy. And some of them, they believe it too much. So there's no like, people have a factual like, information about the world. And that's why I think it's really important for us to get the real information, more than just a movie.
Hi, thank you for your talk. In some of the reporting on stories like yours and some of the other defectors, there's been a tendency to sort of pick at errors and say, oh, this can't be real because this person said they were doing this, but really they were doing that. And I think that would make you feel really awful because it's not an accurate representation of what you went through. Like, how does that make you feel? And I'm sorry if it's too personal, but
so I started to speak up without even knowing what New York Times was. So that was my knowledge. I didn't know what Washington Post was. I didn't know what journalist was. I just knew nothing about it. And yeah, so like the first conference that I spoke was, called One Young World in Dublin, Ireland. And the speakers were like Richard Branson, Sir Bob Geldof, and Kofi Annan. Who the heck if I know them, I didn't care. We were like at the same room. I didn't know. And like later I figured out, wow, I was at the same room with them. So that was my knowledge of the world. I have no idea what was it. And this world had a lot of great side, but also some side that I just couldn't understand at all. I think there was some discrepancy comes up when it comes to defectors. And I really cannot speak for other stories, but I know my story, right? I think in the beginning, I was from Korea, and I don't know if you understand Asia more. In Asia, as a girl, the purity is everything. If you talk about your rape and you're being sold that you're like at the age of 13, you can never imagine having a family. There's no guy who will take you, and no mother-in-law will be proud of you. And even though that was my choice, even though I was a victim, but I had to hide it. And I was not ready to talk about it to survive again. And I talked about only a few parts. And then I got the book deal, and I wanted to write that in the book because I knew I had to write everything. I could not just hide something. And North Korea came after me saying I was a liar, but a lot of accusations they made was just totally nothing even you need to think about. But I just saw a lot of journalists and people so easily just, they are so easily fall into the catchy phrase. And that was so shallow for me. I just couldn't understand. These people are educated. Why would they do that? Why would they trust what the dictator says? But you gotta be strong to be in public. And I am at the same agent with Malala, the girl who won the Nobel Prize. And my agent telling me she just hated by her own people. So like I should be grateful for that. And that means you are being effective. So, I just had to learn. When so many bad things happen to you, you just have to learn how to find good things out of it and how to be resilient. And I got that from my experience. So I didn't stop, even that came after me. And I'm still keep speaking up. And yeah, thank you.
Hi, I don't know if you know this, but there's another conference on today, just a few hundred meters down the road. It's a conference on Marxism and socialism. And all the people attending that conference think that Marxism and socialism is the best thing in the world. They've never experienced Marxism or socialism. If you were talking to them, and perhaps if we opened the doors and the windows and turned the volume up on your mic, What would you say to these people to convince them otherwise?
So I think the answer is very, very easy. So through my activism, of course, I met a lot of sympathizers of North Korea. So apparently, North Korea is the only country left as a socialist. They call it socialist. So a lot of people who support that idea, they are afraid to speak against the regime. So I have to deal with this crazy dictator, and there's a lot of sympathizers around the world. And I guess like only one solution that we have, like, can you just ship them all to North Korea? And just bring North Korea out of country. Thank you. Yeah. So if they are truly happy with just going to North Korea and then send the North Korean people out instead, then you are a true believer of socialism, and please go for it. Nobody's gonna stop you for that here. So just that's my best wish for them. Best thing for them, right? So please go chasing your dream and go to North Korea right now. Thank you. Yeah.
Hello, thanks for your talk. Since you've departed, has there become, do you have is there now in China a more formalised structure of escape, a sort of an underground railroad? Has that been developed, or is it still purely luck, purely ad hoc if you happen to be in the right place at the right time? Or is there now a structure which will allow North Koreans to escape, and if there is, could you detail it as much as you can?
Thank you. After that famine that happened in North Korea, like in late 90s and 2000, there was some like route people escape, relatively less dangerous. But now after Kim Jong-un, it was just totally blocked. So it's almost like impossible to escape. So during 70 years division of North and South, total like people escaped to 28,000 to the South. And that was not like recently, it was like before. And now almost defection is not allowed, not like happening. So it's so unfortunate that nobody can come out again from that country. And yeah, I hear only a few makes it now.
Last question.
Thanks very much for speaking. It was an honour to hear you talk. I'm really interested in the whole system that builds around the dear leader, so people in the military and people in government and those officials. What is the main attractor, or what drives people to be in those positions of power to essentially, hold down the rest of the people? Do these people come from a particular caste? Is it because they're looked after in terms of food and comfort? What's that system of becoming a citizen and then becoming an oppressor within the regime?
Thank you. I guess if I know the answer, I always say I might just meet Obama right now and talk to him what to do. But apparently, I don't think anybody knows the answer when it comes to North Korean regime. And they are not stupid. They know what they do, really. They do really well with their job. So it's very secretive. We don't know who's in control. Is it Kim Jong-un on the party? Who is it? Who's in behind it? We just don't know. So I think before I thought, because the elite people, I told you the caste, right? If you were born in the good caste, you are in that caste forever. But that is not true. If you see Kim Jong-un's uncle, he was second power, he can be gone one day. And there's no exception, even he's uncle of Kim Jong-un. So I think, I just don't know how come this one guy has this almighty power to do everything that he wants. And I think this is still a mystery, really. How come no generals next to him try to, start a revolution, because these guys knows what's going on outside of the world. These elite people, they travel to the West, and their sons are educated in Britain, in China, in Germany, and these people is Kim Jong-un was he went to school in Switzerland, and that's the thing that I just don't get it. The Kim Jong knows what democracy is. He knows what every average person deserves. But despite that, he's being a dictator, right? That's why this guy is so evil. And yeah, so it's really, I'm so confused right now, like who's in control, like in North Korea. Who knows? Yeah, thank you so much for your question.